I will try not to speak too fast. So Elise and Matea in the translation booth can keep up with me. And they're giving warning to the people at the back at the minute to get out of their way. There we go. All right. My name is James Dearsley. I am the founder of a couple of businesses. I've been in the real estate world for 15 to 20 years now. And my ultimate passion is looking at the future and understanding where the industry is going to help both the prop tech businesses and the property businesses work together, collaborate, and hopefully work for the better of the industry. Now, the aim of my presentation today is to give you a perspective on the future and to understand how prop tech is having a considerable impact on the future of the property industry. I will try not to go too fast, but I do get a little bit excited as I go. And we'll see how well you understand my English by the next slide. So, let's talk about prop tech. Prop tech is a bit like teenage sex. Now, some of you will remember those days. Some of you, they may be further back than others. But this is based on a quote in 2013 by a professor talking about big data. And he said big data is like teenage sex. So I've changed it. Prop tech is like teenage sex. Why? Because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's claiming that they're doing it. And everyone thinks that everyone else is doing it. The problem is, no one has a fucking idea what's really going on. Okay? And that is why events like this are so important for all of us. Because they give us the opportunity to understand the changes that are happening and the companies that are part of it. So let's get real. Prop tech, it's seen a massive surge of interest. One of the things I want to do today is talk to you about France. And whilst there are 6,000 businesses around the world dealing in prop tech from over 100 countries, we have to look at the French market. We have to understand where you are placed against others. So are there any Germans in the audience? Brilliant. I'm going to compare France against Germany later, just to give you a comparison as to how well you are doing. So, there are 6,000 businesses. But understanding what prop tech actually is the most important thing. Without an understanding of what prop tech is and how it is placed in the property market is going to help you in your daily lives. So, what I want to do today is discuss how prop tech fits globally, because one of the important aspects for you to realize is that prop tech is simply a global solution to a local problem. This beautiful building is almost identical to a building in London. The office blocks in central Paris will have the same problems as the office blocks in New York, in Sydney. The solutions to those problems won't necessarily be local. They could come from Buenos Aires, they could come from Cape Town. PropTech has the ability to break down the geographical boundaries of the problems you are all facing. So, what is PropTech? Let me help you understand and put into context what I mean. This is a definition I'm going to work through with you and give you some context around it. So I'm going to start with the first bit. PropTech is one small part of the wider digital transformation of the real estate industry. The real estate industry is the second largest asset class in the world. And yet we are one of the last to go through a digital transformation journey. Everybody else has done it. We are only just starting this journey now. So let me give you a little example of one business model which is going through this transformational period. This graph here is a graph showing the stock market price of two companies. Purple Bricks is the blue line. Purple Bricks is the disruptor. It's the innovative business model. It's a fixed fee estate agency, residential estate agency. Countrywide is the incumbent. It's the traditional real estate market. It has multiple offices. It has hundreds upon hundreds of staff. And if you look here, the market, the city, the investors have really pushed the market value of Purple Bricks considerably higher than that of Countrywide. Why? Because they are betting that the future of the industry is on a more disruptive model than that of the traditional capital-intense, property-intense model in residential real estate. Now, Purple Bricks has launched in the UK. It's launched in America. I was in Sydney about 2 weeks ago. Everyone's talking about Purple Bricks. What are they doing? Why is it different? Why is it good? I'm not saying that fixed fee model residential estate agency is the way to go, because actually I don't think it is. But this is just one example of where the city is predicting the future of residential real estate and saying it is not about the traditional way of doing things. It's the start of the digital transformation journey. Let's go to the next bit. It describes a movement driving a mentality change within the real estate industry and its consumers regarding technology-driven innovation. So, the important point to realize here, it's not about technology. It is genuinely not. Most of you have got smartphones. I'm seeing the smartphones being held up. That technology was around 10 years ago. We all know that. But what it's done is it's driven this mentality change within us as an industry, as an employee, as much as it's driven a change in the consumer. We now expect things to be done quicker, more efficiently. We don't expect there to be any hassle in getting things done. And so this is about a mentality shift, not a technology shift. And so let's just look at one, to be honest, a bit of a boring example, but it says what you need to know. Smartphone adoption now. 92% of millennials have a smartphone. We know that. They're glued to it. Even our mums, dads, grannies, and granddads are smart-enabled now, 30% of them. But to be honest, if we're looking at this and thinking, oh, crikey, our business has got to adapt to this, you guys are fucked already. Because you should be mobile-enabled now, okay? And actually, this statistic, it bores me because it's not about today's market. It's not about the mentality shift that this market has created. It's about what comes next. So, let's look at where we are in 2033, 15 years' time from here. The millennials have moved on. The silent generation have moved on. They're all using smartphones now. But your future clients are no longer using smartphones. Why? I can see every single one of you at the minute, if you're taking a photo of this slide, are doing this. Right? You're looking at a black mirror. If any of you are watching the television program, you see where Black Mirror comes from. There is a barrier between intention and action. The mobile phone, the tablet computer, is this barrier. Every time you want to take a photo of your kids, you've got to find your phone, you've got to get it out, you've got to unlock it, you've got to take the photo. If you want to make a purchase, you've got to get your phone out, you've got to unlock it, you've got to do this. Millennials, the now generation, are not going to want to do that. They want that barrier gotten rid of. This future generation, which are your next clients, are the guys who will be using the smart-enabled contact lens, where if they want to take the photo, they can already take a photo without having to bring anything out. These have already been patented. Elise and Matteo, I'm sorry, I'm going to offend you. Simultaneous translation. Sorry. will not be done through earphones. They will be done automatically through earbuds in the ear. These things are already here now. They are being developed. They are being worked on. So these guys are not going to have smartphones. Work out where they're going and adapt your business accordingly. That is the mentality you want to think about, not where we are today. So, my best advice, whether you are a business in this world or whether you're a consumer, you've got to start thinking about not where you are today, but you've got to start thinking about your consumers and your employees tomorrow. And that is what PropTech is ultimately enabling you to do. Let's go to the last bit of the definition before I move on. So PropTech is about the data assembly, transacting and design of buildings and cities. This isn't just about having a smart home and having a smart speaker. This is about something far larger than that. Because there you're just a consumer demanding change on the property industry. And that is what I think is ultimately the most exciting thing about our sector now, which is our consumers are driving change. They are pushing the property market to come into the 21st century. But at the same time, as the consumers demanding change, we also have the government coming in and large industry coming in demanding change. Look at the smart city movement, which is all part of PropTech. The money flowing in globally by government into smart city initiatives is tremendous. So what we have now is we have what's called a classic pincher movement on a market, which you don't often see. Consumers and government level demanding change on our buildings and our cities. So we have a unique opportunity as a property market to take advantage of this unique position that no one ever finds themselves in. But let's develop that a little bit further, because we could lose this opportunity. Because what I'm seeing around the world is there are two things that are governing the adoption of PropTech, which is mentality and infrastructure. I was very fortunate to be giving a speech, well, two speeches, one in Indonesia, in Chile and Argentina, which I would class as developing countries. Their population changes have been so vast and so quick, their city development has been so fast and so quick, that these are countries which are almost working like startup businesses. They are having to develop systems, they're having to develop processes, networks, infrastructures that are constantly torn down and redeveloped because their countries are changing so quickly. Which means when it comes to technology adoption, they have a brilliant mentality. In my speech in Indonesia, I was the keynote speaker next to an 85-year-old man. He was one of the nation builders of Indonesia. He was actually about this tall. Was tiny, I mean genuinely tiny in every way. So it was an interesting keynote speech in that sense, but also he stood for 45 minutes with one slide. 85 years old. I couldn't understand a word of what he was saying. But every 5 minutes, he would drop in tiny words. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, 3D printing. This was an 85-year-old man who had built Indonesia himself, pretty much. They have that mentality. What they don't have is the infrastructure. Whereas Paris, London, New York, they have the infrastructure, they have the road networks, they have the Wi-Fi connections. The market's fine. We're okay, we're making loads of money. Why do we need to change? So what they're missing out on is they feel that actually the markets are okay as it is. We're fine. And there is a challenge, I think, where a lot of the real estate market has been doing this for a long time. They've got comfortable with their market. They understand their market. And what we are now doing in technology is we're starting to ask them to change the way that they do things. We're starting to ask them to adopt technological change that they don't understand. And as a consequence, We have the infrastructure, we don't have the mentality shift. This is good, isn't it? Okay, I want to move on to the next slide with that, because it's not just about this mentality and infrastructure change, but we have to have an understanding as to what cities mean. So, if you look at Paris, if you look at London, if you look at New York, if you look at Sydney, all of these cities were built around a river network. What then happened once the river network developed a city? We then built it around railway networks, road networks, and we built cities. If you go to the top right-hand corner, Matteo, and you've got the little play button, there you go. So, you can see my little pink brain there. Once you've gone the river networks and the road networks and the railway networks, which have built out cities of the past, what we're now starting to do is develop the future cities. Those which are built around that little pink neural network. The Wi-Fi networks, the infrastructure networks are where the future of our cities will lie. My point with this bit about this little pink network is I question whether Paris, London, New York, Sydney, are these actually going to be the future cities that we have? Because I'm suggesting they may not be. We haven't necessarily got that future infrastructure in terms of wireless networks, 5G networks. We're struggling to do that. Whereas, for example, the world of new city development, Google, for example, are a classic example here. Google are building a city from the internet up in Toronto. 12 hectares they've purchased. Why are they doing that? Because they want to own the infrastructure. They want to own all of the market and what that develops. I want to give you an idea as to exactly what PropTech means in terms of the life cycle. So the property market can be split into 6 core areas. Build, rent, buy, move, sell. And lastly, manage. Quite often in PropTech, we forget about the build cycle. We assume we're talking about after the build. It's not. It's all included. Now, this is important because I'm going to come back to this when I talk about France in particular. But please consider the property market works into 6 different areas. Because the technology we're talking about in the future of real estate has 2 areas. Endogenous technology, which is all about technology which is impacting now, which is impacting today. Most of the technologies you'll see out here will be endogenous technologies. They are built by the property people for property people. They are software. It's the boring prop tech. There's nothing necessarily exciting about it. But what it's doing is it's improving the efficiencies of the market today. And what most people are getting excited about, what most people are getting scared about, is the exogenous technology. The technology which is impacting tomorrow. Virtual reality, artificial intelligence, blockchain, 3D printing. We think that's going to impact tomorrow, and it's not. It's coming in. It will take, in some cases, a generational change to adopt some of this technology. But the people who understand the endogenous phase will do better in the exogenous phase. Speak and learn. Speak to every single company out here, understand how their business model is developing, and it will help you in the next phase. So let's look at France. And you guys have already seen this slide. There are 500 plus companies in France at the minute in PropTech. This list was just finished literally 24 hours ago. So this is as much up-to-date data as I can ever give you. 41% of the businesses in PropTech today are in the manage phase. So that's managing buildings, that's managing tenants, that's managing construction projects. Manage across the world is by far the largest sector in PropTech. Let's break that down. Paris has nearly 50% of all PropTech businesses in France at the minute, with Lyon and Lille a second and third, but it's really a one-city market, which actually for me is a bit of a concern, because what I'm seeing in other countries is secondary cities are really competing for that crown. It suggests to me that France, as I understand it, is pushing Paris, but you cannot forget the skills and the opportunity in your secondary cities. Most of the businesses, 63% of PropTech businesses, are focused in the residential sector, with a serious lacking of retail technology and construction technology. Now, if I'm honest, I think there's probably maybe 200 more companies in France. This is what Unisu, one of my companies, is doing, which is charting the global PropTech market. Construction tech and retail tech are two of the most under-documented areas of the real estate technology market. So I think we'll see a growth in that. But I was surprised at the commercial market being so small in France. And interestingly, there's a really good split between B2B and B2C businesses here. Perhaps more of an even split than anywhere I've seen so far. There's a lot of peer-to-peer networks in France, which I quite like. So that's something which is quite interesting for me, that the B2C market is very strong here. So if we're looking at that B2C and residential being very strong, it suggests there's great opportunities elsewhere for new business ideas to generate in secondary cities around France. Now I want to compare you to other countries. These are just some of the ones I've spoken in the last month or so, so these are just figures to compare for you. So 67 million people in France, 505 PropTech businesses. So there are 8 million people per... Sorry, there are 8 PropTech businesses per million people. If you compare that to Australia, 24 million, 205 PropTech. A PropTech, 8.5 million people per PropTech. If you look at Austria, far less innovative than both of you guys, in the sense of 5.5 million people. Sorry, 5.5 businesses per million people. But the interesting thing for me, and this has got headlines in Holland last week, was that Germany, who you would think is one of the most innovative nations across Europe, is actually the least innovative when it comes to the number of PropTech businesses in Germany. I thought you'd like that one. I didn't put in England in here. We're leaving Europe, right? So we thought I'd leave us out. But I hope that gives you an idea that actually France at the minute, with Holland actually, are one of the most innovative countries. Okay, final couple of slides. And this is for you property people, really, than PropTech people. I want to talk to you about the do's and don'ts of market disruption. I want to help you understand what you shouldn't be doing. Don't deny that PropTech is a thing. Don't deny that it is coming into the property market. Don't be an ostrich. Don't hide yourself. Do not deter things from happening. A lot of companies at the minute out there are trying to deter change. They're trying to deter companies from developing change. Take Uber, take Airbnb, for example. They are trying to put up barriers to stop the change in the market. It's only going to delay the inevitable. That's the problem. And that's the next bit. Do not delay understanding the next changes, okay? These business models are coming in thick and fast. So what can you do about it? The first thing, engage. These guys out here, there are hundreds of people, tens of companies. Understand their business models. Oh, here we go. I'm going to squeeze through. Understand their business models. Understanding how that will impact your business. Bring them in. Okay, bring them into your business. Talk to them. Find out how they can help. Because their knowledge is probably one of the most important things. Their business model may not be right for them. May not be right for you. But their minds will be. These are the people that are trying to instigate change in the real estate market. So what we're seeing at the minute is we're seeing a lot of larger companies working with prop techs, bringing them into their businesses. In some cases, they're talking about being an entrepreneur in residence, for example. There's one company called GVA in London, where they're championing the prop tech businesses. They are almost working with them because of their mindset as much as their business model. And ultimately, promote the fact within your business that it's not just the external businesses you're working with, but promote internal champions of technology internally. So you may have a very old board of directors. Start bringing in junior members who understand your audience demographic a lot more, because they're dealing with the clients that you will be dealing with over the next 5 to 10 years. And if you're a board of directors who's simply listening to what you think is right, you're going to go wrong. So start establishing a board structure where you're championing internal, younger mindset people. My final slide goes on to talking about the way that we as a business need to change because of the way that technology is changing the world. So in one case, an understanding that technology is rewriting all of the rules. Technology is changing all of the business models out there. As a consequence, you as a business have to change. Technology has more of a relationship with the consumer than you do. And that's a really pressing point, simply because the property market has built its foundations on talking to people. We call it a relationship-driven business model. If technology has more of a relationship with your consumer than you do personally, let me leave that one up, if anyone wants a photo. There are my do's and don'ts, by the way, of market disruption. But if technology has more of a relationship with your consumer than you do, you're in serious trouble. Work out how you can utilize technology to speak to your market. Because we're living in a time when, as I said, technology is rewriting the rules. Technology is reinventing job descriptions. If any of you have kids, between 60 and 80% of all jobs are actually not even around yet. We don't know what they will be. I've said here, technology has more of a relationship with the consumer than you do. And this is the most important point. Profit is a distraction on the way to disruption. If you are business owners at the minute and you're too concerned about change, so you are not implementing change because you know you've got profit now, you're screwed. Do not let your profit today affect your market tomorrow. Okay, that was a presentation I really enjoyed. That doesn't happen very often. I just want to say thank you for your patience, but just really a quick point on this. So Unisu as a platform is a platform where we're charting over the 6,000 businesses. So if you are interested in prop tech and how it's impacting, and you want to know the prop techs that may impact you, we're launching in probably early November. We have 500 early access registration. So if you want to understand prop tech businesses around the world, do go to unisu.com and register. And you can follow me on Twitter at James Searsley, or feel free to email me and congratulate me on an amazingly fragmented presentation as a keynote. Thank you ever so much.